SLT Mobitel, the connection. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, a prosperity harvest. In his Thai Pongal message today, President Gotabaya says his sole objective and that of his government is to usher in prosperity for all. Large tracks. Southeast Asia's largest tyre factory launches operations in Derana today. The best bet. Amidst upsurge in virus cases, epidemiologist says highly effective Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine most likely choice.
Vaccine that is developed by the Oxford and AstraZeneca produced within India. So these vaccines very likely that we will be receiving. It will be a very safe and effective.
Double trouble. Donald Trump becomes first US president to face 2 impeachments in office. All this and much more coming up on this Thursday, the 14th of January 2021.
ඇල්කොහොල් අඩංගු hand sanitizer භාවිත කරන්න. ලෙඩ රෝග ඇති කරන විෂ බීජවලට එරෙහිව සටන් කරන්න. හඳුන්වා දීමේ මිල රුපියල් 350යි.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Shanella Fernando. Moving on to your top stories for tonight. Tamils across the island celebrate the harvest festival of Thai Pongal today, however in a somewhat subdued manner due to COVID-19 restrictions. With that, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa in his Thai Pongal greetings to the Tamil community says that his fervent wish during this festival season is to usher in prosperity for all Sri Lankans, irrespective of racial or religious differences. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa in his message stated that despite Sri Lankans differing in ethnicity, religion and language, the country's collective aspirations, hopes and dreams are never different.
The Harvest Festival of Thai Pongal is one of the most highly celebrated festivals in the Hindu calendar. The multi-day Harvest Festival is observed during the second week of January and is dedicated to the sun god Surya, marking the end of the winter solstice and the start of the sun's 6-month-long journey northwards. On Thai Pongal Day, houses and places of worship are decorated with kolam or rangoli and families engage in Pongal activities. Hindu devotees also engage in religious worship at kovils across the country. However, this year, due to COVID-19, the Tamil community were forced to celebrate under restrictions, including limitations on interactions with extended family members and strict health and safety precautions. Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa issued a special Thai Pongal message extending his best wishes for the Tamil community that he says has earned the respect and recognition of society and displayed noble virtues honoured by the people. In his message, the President called the Thai Pongal festival one of the foremost religious and cultural events that signifies paying gratitude to the life-giving sun for a bountiful harvest. The President also stated that Tamils who live by the Hindu faith consider Thai Pongal to mark the dawn of a new year, during which their expectations would be fulfilled. He added that on such a joyful occasion, he joins the country's Tamil brethren to share in their joy and happiness. Further, with prosperity the solemn wish during such a festival, the President stated that his sole objective and that of his government is to usher in prosperity for all Sri Lankans, irrespective of racial or religious differences. He added that the contents of his policy statement, Vistas of Prosperity and Splendour, are the means to achieve this noble objective. With that, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa too issued his Thai Pongal message as well, stating that the festival can be celebrated with renewed hope in Sri Lanka and all over the world. The Premier added that the government is committed to uplifting the living standards of all Sri Lankans and is determined to work towards overcoming these challenges together as a nation, despite the prevailing challenging times. The Prime Minister added that although Sri Lankans differ in ethnicity, religion and language, our aspirations, hopes and dreams are similar. The PM added that despite the challenging times, the government is committed to uplifting the living standards of all Sri Lankan citizens and is determined to work towards overcoming these challenges together as a nation.
Pay just 500,000 rupees to reserve your unit today. Mulberry Residence.
Tipped to be the largest tyre manufacturing facility in South and Southeast Asia, the Ferrantino Tyre Corporation facility was declared open today by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Spanning 60 acres at the export processing zone in Derana, the tyre factory came about with an investment of $250 million.
The largest tyre manufacturing facility in South and Southeast Asia, Ferrantino Tyre Corporation Private Limited factory was declared open by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today. Established at the export processing zone in Derana, the manufacturing facility involved an investment of $250 million. Spanning across 60 acres, the tyre factory is a brainchild of the chairman of the Ceylon Steel Corporation Private Limited, Nandan Lokavithana, and the foundation stone for the facility was laid in 2017. The factory will manufacture specialized tyres for SUVs, motorcycles, three-wheelers and trucks, as well as solid tyres. The manufacturing process will be spearheaded by local talent with the use of sophisticated European technology, and the factory intends to use locally sourced rubber as its main raw material. The first phase of the project has been already completed, with production scheduled to begin soon. Phase 2 is set to be completed in March 2022. Meanwhile, the first batch of tyres manufactured by the factory is due to be exported to the United States later this month.
2020 වසරේදී අපි රබර් ආශ්‍රිත නිෂ්පාදන කර්මාන්තවලින් අපහසු අවුරුද්දක සමාජීය සෞඛ්‍යමය වශයෙන් රුපියල් බිලියන 149ක් ජාතික ආර්ථිකයට එකතු කරගෙන තිබෙනවා. ඔබතුමන්ගේ මේ සුවිශේෂී කර්මාන්ත ශාලාව 2021 වසරේදී ලංකාවේ අපනයන ආදායමට මුදල් එකතු කරන විට ලංකාවේ රබර් ආශ්‍රිත නිෂ්පාදන වලින් අපේ අපනයන ආදායම රුපියල් බිලියන 181 වන බව අපිට නිසකයි. හම්බන්තොට වරාය පරිශ්‍රයේ දිවන ටයර් කර්මාන්ත ශාලාව සමග සමහරක් විට ඉදිරි කාලෙදී අපිට තේවලින් අපි ලබන අපනයන ආදායමට වඩා වැඩි අපනයන ආදායමක් රබර් ආශ්‍රිත නිෂ්පාදනවලින් ලබා ගන්නට පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා.
AdaDerana recently uncovered inhuman abuse endangering the lives of children at the Avanti Devi Children's Home in Anuradhapura. Our investigations exposed the monstrous acts of child predators who preyed on innocent children at the home under the very noses of the home's authorities. Acting swiftly on the matter following our expose, the police arrested 2 suspects, 1 male suspect accused of child abuse and the home's chief administrative officer. Recently, AdaDerana revealed a shocking situation at a children's home in Anuradhapura. Investigations uncovered a serious list of irregularities, including inhuman abuse endured by children being sheltered at the Avanti Devi Children's Home in Anuradhapura. The children's home, operated by the Department of Probation and Child Care Services of the North Central Province, has 60 children under its care. Investigations were launched into the allegations after confidential information was received exposing misdeeds being carried out by the same authorities overseeing the home, who are tasked with ensuring the protection and care of innocents. During investigations, it was revealed that children living at the home have been with outsiders, with the home's officials turning a blind eye. Following the expose, the police acted to apprehend the Avanti Devi Children's Home's Chief Administrative Officer, Amaraveer Singh. Following this, police media spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohana stated that the arrest was carried out based on evidence gathered through several statements recorded from children at the home.
The Chief Administrative Officer of the Children Protection Center called Avanti Devi, situated in Anuradhapura, has been arrested by Anuradhapura police this morning at the premises of Children Protection Center. The Derana TV initially exposed the information about various malpractices happen inside the Child Protection Center. Accordingly, Anuradhapura police initiated investigation and 52 statements in respect of the children who have been accommodated at the center have been recorded by the police.
Meanwhile, police also arrested a 34-year-old man named Nalinda Kalumsena Nayaka, who had engaged in the abuse of the children while posing as a yoga teacher. The suspect had carried out the abuse under the guise of offering the children yoga classes.
So once the police recorded the statements of the children, it had been revealed that one who visited Children Protection Center for yoga exercises had committed some crimes against the children, especially sexual exploitation. 2 days back, he was arrested. He was produced before the Anuradhapura magistrate day before yesterday, and he has been remanded by the court. According to the statement given by the children, it has been revealed that the offense of cruelty to children had occurred inside the Children Protection Center, and especially the Chief Administrative Officer of the Child Protection Center had involved in such crimes. So therefore she was arrested today, and further investigations are underway. She would be produced before the Anuradhapura magistrate tomorrow.
Chief Epidemiologist Dr. Sudat Samaravira assured the public that the Biosecure Bubble is highly safe and can ensure zero risk to the Sri Lankan populace. He also said that only tourists who test COVID-19 negative from PCR tests conducted at the airport will be permitted to travel in the Biosecure Bubble, while positive cases will be isolated.
The Ministry of Tourism recently announced their plans to reopen the country's airports completely for foreign tourist arrivals on the 21st of January. With that being the case, foreigners arriving to our country are to be subjected to testing at the airport and will then be able to travel to selected destinations within Biosecure Bubble, subjected to a negative PCR test. However, as public concerns still remain over the safety of the Biosecure Bubble, Chief Epidemiologist Dr. Sudat Samaravira offered an assurance that the concept is highly secure and will not pose any risk to the public.
With this Biosecure Bubble concept, the tourism industry also will be revamping in coming days. More and more flights will come to the country, more tourists will come. But on arrival, they will be subjected to a PCR. If they are infected, they will be isolated and treated. And if they are not infected, they will be living within a Biosecure Bubble and will be allowed to visit the places in our country in a limited or restricted manner within that Biosecure Bubble, and that will prevent the spread of the virus to our local people, because there is no chance to meet local people by the tourist people. There is no cross-contamination or interaction in between the local people and the tourists. If somebody is interacting with these tourists, like the people who are providing services to these people, also will be living within that Biosecure Bubble. And in addition to that, when these tourists leave the country, they will be living for 14 more days under quarantine and will be tested, and only if they are not infected will be released to the society. So with this concept, there will be no any chance that this virus will be introduced into the country.
The Sri Lanka Air Force conducted the fourth phase of its seed bombing project today in line with its 70th anniversary. Using an Mi-17 helicopter, the Air Force dispersed around 70,000 seed bombs across 60 acres of land within the Lahugala-Kitulana National Park in Ampara.
With the aim of raising Sri Lanka's forest cover from 27% to 32% by 2030, the Sri Lanka Air Force conducted the fourth phase of its seed bombing project today. The project was conducted with the guidance of the Forest Conservation Department and the University of Peradeniya. The fourth wave of seed bombings was carried out on 60 acres of forest area within the Lahugala-Kitulana National Park in Ampara. The Air Force used an Mi-17 helicopter to deploy around 70,000 seed bombs in 3 attempts. The seed bombs consisted of 8 types of native trees, namely kumbuk, mee, ahala, tamarind, corn, red lucky seed, karanda, and peacock chase tree seeds. This special project is conducted in line with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's Vistas of Prosperity to create a sustainable future for the generations to come. A total of 167,000 seed bombs have been dispersed over 145 acres of land within the Lahugala-Kitulana National Park in Ampara, while 5,000 seed bombs were dropped over 5 acres of land in the Ranurava government forest. The operations was held in accordance with the 70th anniversary of the Sri Lanka Air Force.
More news on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In more news, the Government Medical Officers Association says that the COVID-19 risk in provinces other than Western Province have shown a marked increase in new cases. Current data shows that cases outside the Western Province now account for 50% of overall cases. Meanwhile, Deputy Director General of Public Health Services Dr. Hemantha Heras has called on media outlets to refrain from revealing the identities of COVID-19 patients on ethical grounds.
Since the 8th of January, Sri Lanka has reported a continuous upsurge in the number of COVID-19 infections. Accordingly, the number of COVID-19 infections detected yesterday was 692, which is an increase of 104 infections compared with Tuesday's detections. The Colombo district topped the list with 223 infections, while the Gampa district reported the second highest with 119. In addition, 112 infections were reported from Kaluthara, 34 from Mathale, 18 from Galle, 17 infections each from Kandy and Kurunagala, 16 from Vaunia, 14 from Kegalle and 13 from Ampara. Further 10 infections were reported from Ratnapura, 8 infections each from Batiklo and Trincomalee, 7 each from Mathura and Nuwara and 4 from Anuradhapura. In addition, 2 infections were also detected from Puttalam and Hambantota, while a single infection was detected from Polonnaruwa. What's more, the 692 infections detected yesterday also included 5 foreign arrivals and 55 patients with no permanent residence.
අපිට සමස්තයක් විදිහට පෙරේද දවසේ රෝගීන් 588ක් වාර්තා වෙනකොට එකෙන් 147ක් කොළඹින් වාර්තා වුණේ. එතකොට 125ක් වගේ ප්‍රමාණයක්. දැන් මේක කලින් තිබුණේ 140ක් විතර. දැන් ඒ කියන්නේ සාපේක්ෂව කොළඹ යම් අවදානම අඩුවීමක් අපිට නිරීක්ෂණය වෙනවා. බස්නාහිර පළාත තුලත් අවදානම සාපේක්ෂව අඩු වෙලා තියෙන එක තමයි අපිට බැලූ බැලමට සංඛ්‍යා ලේඛන වලින් පේන්නේ. මේ දෙක හරහා කියවෙන අනිත් පණිවිඩය තමයි අනිත් පළාත් 8ේම මීට මාසයකට දෙකකට කලින් තිබුණේ 15ක 20ක උපරිම අවදානමක්. දැන් ඒක 50 දක්වා ආවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම තමයි තහවුරු නොකළ රෝගීන් 39 දෙනෙක් ඊයේ විශ්ලේෂණාත්මක තොරතුරු හරහා හෙළිදරව් වෙනවා. ඒතර මේක ඊටාම් භයානක තත්ත්වයක්. මොකද මේ සියලු දෙනා ලංකාවේ ඇතුලේ කොහේ හරි ඉන්න අය. ඒ සියලු දෙනා අපි අඳුනගනත් නිදහසේ සමාජය තුල ඔබමම ගමන් කරමින් ඉන්නවා.
In the meantime, police media spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohana says that operations to subject public face mask violators to PCR or rapid antigen testing will continue further.
මෙතෙක් බස්නාහිර පළාත තුල මුහුණු ආවරණ නොපළඳින ලද පුද්ගලයන් 4513 PCR හෝ ඇන්ටිජන් පරීක්ෂාවලට ලක් කර තිබෙනවා. ඒ අයගෙන් 48 දෙනෙක් කොවිඩ් ආසාදිතයින් බවට හඳුනාගෙන තිබෙනවා. මේ මෙහෙයුම තවදුරටත් ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙනවා.
Meanwhile, Deputy Director General of Public Health Services Dr. Hemantha Heras requested media institutions to refrain from releasing identities of COVID-19 patients, which he stated was unethical and an invasion on their privacy.
Now, I would like to make this request to the media that as media should take a decision and take precautions to make sure that whenever the details of a patient or other person is published, not to publish any detail that will lead to the disclosure of the identity of that person. It is unethical, and health ministry usually provide the accurate information to the media. We do not want to decline any information. However, it is the duty of the media to make sure that whatever the information published is not going to disclose the identity of any individual, because it is very extremely unfair from the point of that person.
In other developments, the total number of COVID-19 recoveries in Sri Lanka since the first wave began in March increased to 43,747, with 480 people being discharged from hospitals after recovery.
Chief Epidemiologist Dr. Sudat Samaravira revealed that the most likely choice for Sri Lanka is the vaccine developed by Oxford University and pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca. Meanwhile, with Sri Lanka's traditional vaccine supplier India able to produce 50 million doses per month, the Oxford vaccine, which has shown effectiveness against the new strain, looks to be the likeliest choice.
Head of the Presidential Task Force for the National Deployment and Vaccination Plan for the COVID-19 Vaccine and Chief Advisor to the President Lalit Weeratunga recently announced that COVID-19 vaccines are expected to arrive in Sri Lanka by next month, and people will receive the jab by the end of February or by the beginning of March. Further, health authorities have also identified priority groups who will be inoculated first. In such a backdrop, Chief Epidemiologist Dr. Sudat Samaravira, in a media briefing today, revealed that Sri Lanka is likely to receive the vaccine developed by Oxford University and AstraZeneca. The vaccine is being manufactured by India's Serum Institute, which is the world's largest vaccine manufacturer. What's more, the institute also possesses the capacity to produce 50 million doses of the vaccine every month.
One of the vaccine that is being successful is Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. This is a product of Oxford University Research in collaboration with the AstraZeneca company. And once COVID vaccine has been developed, then the next challenge is the production. There should be mass production. There are largest vaccine production companies are existing in India. Even in our normal immunization program, most of the vaccines that we are importing are from these Indian companies. So the same identical same vaccine that is developed by the Oxford and AstraZeneca produced within the laboratories and the factories in India. So these vaccines very likely that we will be receiving. So it will be a very safe and very effective vaccine according to the available evidence. So it will be available to our people in coming days. And the other thing is, we know that there is a new virus variant identified in UK, and it has been now spread into many other countries, the United States of America, some Latin American countries, Australia, then Japan, then India. So there is the threat that this virus can introduce into our country also. So because of that, we have taken the maximum precaution. But the good news is that new vaccine is effective against this new strain.
According to a study conducted in the United Kingdom, people who have previously contracted the COVID-19 virus were found to have developed immunity against it for at least 5 months. However, the study pointed out that those who had contracted the virus and developed antibodies against it could still carry and spread the virus.
A study conducted in the United Kingdom on healthcare workers has found that persons who have had COVID-19 are highly likely to develop immunity against it for at least 5 months. However, evidence suggests that those with antibodies may still be able to carry and spread the virus. Preliminary findings by scientists at Public Health England showed that reinfections in people who have COVID-19 antibodies from a past infection are rare, with only 44 cases found among 6,614 previously infected people in the study. Experts, however, caution that the findings mean people who contracted the disease in the first wave of the pandemic in the early months of 2020 may now be vulnerable to catching it again. They also warn that people with so-called natural immunity acquired through having had the infection may still be able to carry the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus in their nose and throat and could unwittingly pass it on. A statement on the study said its findings did not address antibody or other immune responses to vaccines now being rolled out against COVID-19, or on how effective vaccines would be.
The World Health Organization says that countries must share virus samples through global mechanisms to aid critical research into disease control. WHO says that more variants could be expected depending on the higher levels of transmission, as the more the SARS-CoV-2 virus spreads, the more opportunities it has to change.
The World Health Organization has called for countries to step up efforts to rapidly identify and study emerging variants of the COVID-19 causing SARS-CoV-2 virus. The agency says that alongside monitoring, virus and serum samples should also be shared through globally agreed mechanisms so that critical research can be promptly initiated each time. Speaking at a virtual meeting of scientists from around the globe, head of WHO's R&D blueprint Ana Maria Henao Restrepo says that the collective goal should be to get ahead of the game and have a global mechanism to quickly identify and study variants of concern and understand their implications for disease control efforts. At the meeting, participants noted the importance of research to detect and understand early on the potential impact of emerging variants on diagnostics, treatments and vaccines. They also highlighted the importance of integrating new SARS-CoV-2 variant research into the global research and innovation agenda. The WHO says that although it is normal for viruses to mutate, the more the SARS-CoV-2 virus spreads, the more opportunities it has to change. This means that more variants could be expected, depending on the higher levels of transmission. The WHO says that of the variants reported so far, some have been associated with higher transmissibility but not disease severity, and that research is underway to address whether changes impact public health tools and measures. New variants of the virus have been detected in the UK, South Africa and Japan, which appear to be more transmissible, although health officials have said there is no evidence it is more deadly or that it would not respond in the same way to the vaccines cleared for emergency use.
Welcome back in your business news. British billionaire Nathaniel Rothschild visited one of Sri Lanka's most promising ongoing investment projects, the port city Colombo, today after arriving in the country on Tuesday. According to port city officials, during the tour at the project site, Rothschild had shown a keen interest in the proposed marina and hospitality plots.
Billionaire investment banker and Rothschild family member Nathaniel Rothschild arrived in Sri Lanka on Tuesday. During his brief visit to Sri Lanka, the 49-year-old visited one of Sri Lanka's biggest investment projects, the Colombo Port City, on an official inspection tour hosted by the project's officials. Rothschild was accompanied by prominent Sri Lankan-born British politician and former EU parliamentarian Niranjan Deva Aditya and corporate sector veteran Rajan Brito. The delegation was briefed on the Port City Colombo project and the progress of its construction as well as the scope of future developments. Port City officials in a press release stated that Rothschild has expressed significant interest especially in the marina and hospitality plots. The Rothschilds, a prominent family in the UK, possess diversified business interests in the fields of mining, energy, real estate and even winemaking, in addition to its involvement in the global banking sector. The senior management of the Czech Port City Colombo expressed appreciation at the high-profile visit and hope to continue further dialogue with Rothschild on possible future cooperation. The first investment agreement for Port City Colombo was signed late last year for the development of the Colombo International Financial Centre.
Japan has suspended a program that allowed business visits by people from certain economies as it tightened border restrictions over renewed coronavirus fears. Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga yesterday announced a clampdown on entry by business people from Vietnam, China, South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Singapore, Sri Lanka and Malaysia. The suspension means no foreigners would be allowed to enter except for special reasons such as attending a family funeral or childbirth. The program consisted of two components, business track and residence track. The former meant for short-term business travelers allowed foreigners to enter for undertaking limited activities for 14 days while self-quarantining and accepting additional measures like submission of their schedule in Japan. Residence track was for long-term visits but required visitors to stay at home or other designated locations for 14 days. With that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining. I'm Shanella Fernando. Have a good night.